The motion tools in Adobe Fresco make it really easy to create fun animated GIFs that you can use on social media and stickers and all kinds of stuff. The reason I say motion tools is because oftentimes when I talk about the animation stuff in Adobe Fresco, I'll get questions like, hey, could you use Adobe Fresco to make an animated short or all kinds of other stuff. And although the animation tools in Adobe Fresco are great and make a lot of stuff really easy, it's more geared towards looping continuous movement as opposed to like an animated short or sequence. Anyway, when you want to do something like what we're going to do in this video, make simple looping animations to quickly export and use in your social media stories or wherever else you want to use digital stickers, it's very easy. Let's do one, okay? All right, let's go. Okay, for this first one, I thought I would keep it simple and just do a sticker for the situation where you share something and you just want like a little thing to point to it where it says like, you know, this or this is what I'm talking about. I don't know, you know when you might want to use this. Anyway, I did this quick sketch. I got a finger pointing and then I just have the word this. I feel like it's very usatile. This is very useful. One of the great things about Adobe Fresco's motion tools is that you can have a different timeline on each layer. What that means is we can animate the word this and the hand separately and just break it down a little bit at a time. So first things first, we're going to draw this hand and I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm just going to do a tighter version of this and then we will use one of the built-in motion presets to animate it without even having to do any animation work. So let's just get into it. I'm going to grab my classic anchor from my Retro Splico set. I'm going to jack my smoothing up through the roof so I can get some smooth curves on these hands and I'm just going to draw it in here. All right, so we got a hand pointing and we're going to bring this to life without even doing anything. I'm going to click on the little animation tool at the bottom. I'm going to click on path. Then I'm going to come over to this preset and I don't know, let's try this jitter one. Look at that. It's perfect. Just adds a little bit of emotion to it and draws attention. So that's good. Let's move on to this. So I just want some bold lettering here. I just simply wrote it out in block letters, and an easy way to make this a little bit bolder without having to be some sort of lettering expert is to just sort of widen the lines, like build a little fence around the outside and then fill it in. I think I want to use a color to contrast with the blue, so let's grab orange. Orange and blue are a nice combination. So I'm going to make a new layer for this, and I'm just going to trace along the outside of these simple letter forms. Now we just fill these in, and we can just play this and see what it looks like. Okay, perfect. So the hand's not touching it. I feel like the lettering could use something to give it the same energy. I'm gonna do a simple line boil. A line boil is just the effect that you see in frame by frame animation from redrawing things where the line wiggles a little bit. And I think that'll pair well with the jitter that we have in the hand. So in order to do this, all you gotta do is just trace it 3 times. And you don't want to try to make it different each time. You just want to trace it. And the natural imperfections of you drawing it 3 times will give it that vibration. So we'll just come down here, hit this plus, make a new layer or a new frame, and then we just trace it. As you can see here, I'm attempting to get it close, but not being crazy about it. I'm just kind of doing it over pretty quickly. Another thing I like to do to try to make the motion a little bit less jumpy and a little bit more fluid is instead of adding the frame at the end, I'll go to the first frame and then hit plus, and then I'll draw a frame that sort of blends those 2 frames. What I mean by blend is you see the color overlap that's previewing the next frame and the first frame. So what I'll do is I'll just try to draw a little bit like halfway through, and that'll just sort of make it flow a little bit better. All right, now we can play this, give it a shot. Yeah, I think that's a nice amount of vibration. And remember, this is going to be small, so it'll be like that. And this is ready to go. So all we're going to do now is turn off our background. So you see the checkerboard to show that it's transparent. And then you'll go up here to publish and export. We'll choose motion. We'll choose GIF. We'll turn on transparent background, and then we'll go to generate frames. And now we just export this, save it to our photo library. And then if you're using Instagram or something, you can just pop up a story and then go to your photo album and then go to the 3 dots up in the top corner and go to copy. And then when you're in Instagram, you can just tap and paste and it'll paste that animated GIF right there. The other thing you could do is post them on Giphy and have a whole library of them. I do that with mine. I have a ton of them on there. So I just tag them with my name. So when I'm on Instagram and I just search in the little GIF section. I just type Chris Piascik, and then all of my little GIFs show up there, and I can use them. You could use them too if you do that as well. Let's do another one. All right, I made this this little guy here, and I like his expression. I feel like this is a very versatile. It's like looking at something and you can't look away. Sort of like what? Listen, I don't know. I feel like it gives a feeling. For this one, I'm also going to take advantage of the fact that there's a timeline on each layer, but I'm going to do it to make the sketching process easier. And what I mean by that is I can sort of animate the different things roughly, and then once I get it all worked out, then I can trace over that to do a tightened up version. As you can, obviously it's very clear here, he's got a propeller on his head and he's floating, but he's kind of chunky, so he doesn't fly that well, so he bobs a little bit. My thought is we can make the propeller spin and then the legs dangle a little bit, and then use one of the motion presets for the bounce, or just sort of looks like he's kind of hovering in place watching the situation. I don't know why he's hovering, but I just feel like having it in motion with this expression that doesn't change, I think would be a funny loop. So I'm satisfied with this body. I feel good about that. So what I'm going to do is just do a tightened up version of this, just like I did with the hand before. Okay, so instead of drawing directly on this, I'm going to just sort of do a rough sketch for the motion to make sure it looks right before I do tightened up versions of that. So we'll just focus on the propeller first. I think if we just draw these circles like 3 times, it's going to look like spinning. So do that, and then come down here to a new frame, draw these circles a little bit different like this. Then we'll do one more, that, and let's see how that looks. I think that looks surprisingly believable, especially when it'll be small. I think I'll just do a lighter color when we do the final version, but I think that's gonna be good. And now we're just gonna do these dangly legs. So I'm gonna just kind of draw them in. I think they should have little feet like this. We could just draw them, but something that works well sometimes is to just use the Liquify in the transform tool, because then you can sort of push it and keep them sort of fluid a little bit. So to do that, what I'm going to do is duplicate this. I'm going to do 6 because I don't think 3 would be enough to just get like a subtle dangle. And we need it to be in the same ratio as the other timeline because we're going to do it all in one frame, so we can do a motion preset. Okay, so let's come over here to our second frame. So we'll come over here to the transform tool and we'll go to frame, not all frames because we want to do this one at a time. And then we're going to go to Liquify. Then I'm going to use the warp, and then I'm just going to subtly push them a little bit. Maybe shorten them a tiny bit so they just look like they're dangling. And maybe like middle ground. We don't want a lot of movement. We just sort of want them to be sort of just like dangling a wee bit. Maybe they start to bend up and back a little bit. And we want to keep in mind that we want it to loop. So this last frame is the same as the first frame because we didn't change those. So we'll change it just a little bit, I think, to make it not look like it stops. And now let's see. That sort of looks like a perfect little dangle. I think once it's bobbing up and down, it'll be perfect. What we can do is group those two things together, the two roughs for our sketch, turn down those, and then all I'm going to do now is just add those to our sequence. But because we're going to need 6 of these frames, I'm going to duplicate this 6 times, so I don't have to redraw the head 6 times. You could if you wanted that line boil, but you don't need to. So I think I want to use a color for this to exaggerate that movement. Maybe we'll just do like a grayish blue. Okay, we can play that. That's looking pretty good. And then we just need these little dangly legs. So I'm just gonna quickly draw them in to each frame. I think that hand-drawn nature of this with the subtle movement from the Liquify will give it like a little bit of a little more jittery look, which I think would be a nice touch for these little wiggly legs. All right, let's turn off our sketch and give that a shot. I think that is looking pretty good. Let's try to make it all move on a path now. So we'll just go to path and we'll go to, I think, the bounce one. I think that looks pretty great. I think I want it to go a little bit slower. So what I'm gonna do is just come down to the frames down here, and we'll just pull this out to, I don't know, let's try 36. Yeah, I feel like that goes better with the expression and the speed of things. That's sort of perfect. One thing that I forgot to do was color in this character, and we have all these different individual layers, but that's not that big of a deal. We can do that. So what I'm gonna do is, instead of coloring it on this layer, I'm gonna do a new layer, which could be tricky because you can't link a path between two layers, but what we can do is do the exact same path if we have the exact same thing. Let me show you. Okay, so if I duplicate the layer, you'll see that they're not working together, but because it's the exact same thing, we can do the path, put it on bounce, and then just make sure we have the same amount of frames. So we can change that to 36. And then if we hit pause and play all, you'll see that they are lined up and work perfectly. So what that means is we can go on to the second one and just color this in, and then they will line up perfectly, as opposed to if we just used like the reference layer to color it, then the path wouldn't work because the overall size would be different and the path is based off the center. If that's confusing, just trust me. So let's go ahead and fill these in. Luckily, it is just a blob. In the future, if you're gonna do this kind of thing, I would recommend not forgetting that step. I'm realizing that I don't like the yellow that I picked, so I'm just gonna change it real quick. For some reason, I feel like it might look good with some rosy cheeks, so I'm gonna do that. Just seems pretty silly, and I like that. So instead of drawing that on each frame, what I'm gonna do is just grab the magic wand tool, select that, and then just come to each of these frames and fill it in. Okay, so now if we zoom out, we hit play all, everything is synced up and working pretty well. I think this is pretty silly. I hope you like it too. We can go ahead and export this. Okay, here's a quick and easy one. I got this skull here, and I thought it'd be fun if it had some little hearts coming out of its eyes to show that it loves something, even though it's dead. So I got a new layer here. I got red. I got a brush. I'm just gonna wing it. I'm drawing a little heart. That looks good. Maybe just rotate it a tiny bit, get the position right. And now what I can do is go to path, and I'm gonna use this breathe option. You can see that it's pulsing a little bit, but I think it should go a little bit faster. So I'm just gonna drag the frame down to 12. I think that's the right speed. And then because this is gonna be small as a sticker, I want it to be emphasized a little bit more. So I'm gonna come down to this percentage on the grow shrink and just pull this up a little bit. And that looks pretty good. And now we can just tap right here. Now we've got one for each eye. If you wanted to be particular and make the second one just a skosh smaller, that would be easy too. We can just X that out, and then we can come over here and duplicate this layer. So we've got a second one, and then we can just go to layer content and motion paths for the transform, drag it over, and just make it a little bit smaller. Then we can just play it and make sure it is on point, and there we go. Perfect. Done. How easy is that? Another fun thing you could do with these hearts, let's say you have this heart and you wanted to, maybe you just want to have hearts fluttering your screen. Let's make it a little bit smaller. And now let's go to the animation, go to path. We could come down here to add multiples and then scatter them, make them get smaller. You could see how many you want. We could rotate them a little bit if you wanted to. You could tap to add more. You could have a whole heart overlay thing. Let's say you didn't want them to just do this. What if you wanted to just have hearts flow throughout the screen? Slow these down. You can randomize it. You could scatter them, grow and shrink and come back and forward. Have them go this way, that way. You could just have hearts everywhere. And then all you would have to do is turn off the background, and then you could just export this just like the other stuff, and then you'd have a whole frame of flying hearts. Another useful sticker these days would be like a skull with flaming eyes that says WTF. So I quickly sketched out a skull giving the expression that I had in mind, and then the letters WTF, I was thinking they could have that flame sort of vibe worked into it. I decided I would wait to put the flames in the eyes until after I got it all drawn out anyway, because I needed the overall structure of the skull's head to begin with. But the skull's head, a skull is a head. But you know what I mean. Needed the structure first, and then we could just draw the flames after that. Tightened up the sketch a little bit. Once I was happy with that, I did the tightened up align work for the skull, and obviously the WTF lettering. To keep things easy for myself, I did the flames on a separate layer, and then just sort of did some jaggy flame-ish lines, and I was just gonna do that sort of line boil thing, but exaggerated a little bit to make it look like the flames are burning from the skull's face. I brought down the opacity of the skull so I could see through it while drawing this, and then afterwards, I'm just gonna go in and erase the overlap from the side so it looks like it's coming out of the eyes. So it's gonna overlap at the top, but not at the bottom. Having the skull line work transparent would allow me to see where the edges were to make sure that I was going beyond them, but also able to draw over them. So just did a 3-frame loop here, tested it out, make sure it wasn't too janky, and I think this looks pretty good. Again, this is gonna be a small little sticker, and it just, you know, has to match the vibe and look a little bit like a flame. And I think this is doing it. So in order to deal with the overlap, I went ahead and just made a selection of the line work on the skull layer and then just erased it from the flame layers. Once I got that all cleaned up, I thought it would be fun to add in a little bit of yellow to accentuate the flameness. So just sort of scribbled in a shape in the middle that sort of mimicked the overall flame shape and just duplicated that a few times. I think that yellow really adds to the flame. Now all that I have left to do is the WTF lettering. So since this lettering already sort of looks like flame, I just sort of did the same thing that I did before where I was getting the line boil, but I just exaggerated it a little bit and just kind of extended it and shortened it a little bit in some places just to have that like shaky flame situation, to have it just all tie together and feel cohesive. I tried adding in a little bit of yellow, decided it was too much, didn't look that good. And I like just having the yellow in the eyes because I feel like it really accentuates and draws, it becomes the focal point so we can make direct eye contact with the skull and feel what he's expressing, and we're all expressing. Export the GIF, transparent background, and it is ready to go. Making little animated GIF stickers is fun, huh? I mean, I think so. I hope you had fun too. You wanna learn more about the different things you can do with motion in Fresco? Because there's a lot more that I didn't cover in this video, and I don't want you to feel left out or not know these things. So you're really gonna wanna watch this video right here, and it's gonna break down even more things that you can do to take your silly GIFs to the next level. All right? I will talk to you soon. I think it's been a good talk. Okay. All right, you're my best friend, okay? All right, no more words.